Hi everyone, and welcome back. I'm with Todd Riebe, and we're discussing AB 109 and the new situation it finds itself in. We have a compromise. Darrell Steinberg has weighed in, and the governor's weighed in. What is the compromise?
Well, as people can recall in the news last week when the governor came out and said this is his plan and he's not going to be early with the 7,700 necessary to get down to comply with the three-judge panel. Darrell Steinberg was not too happy with the governor's plan. There was a lot of talk, and a lot of product of all that was a compromise. And the compromise avoids the early release of any of the 7,700 inmates by appropriating $315 million to lease in-state and out-of-state jail prison beds, and that will comply with the three-judge panel's order. It also allows the governor to ask the three-judge panel for an extension to meet the population cap or to change that cap, but it does settlement to the lawsuits that are out there, the Coleman and Plata lawsuits that we talked about. It also says that any of the $315 million that's being appropriated that is not spent to beds is to be transferred to a newly created recidivism reduction fund, and that fund, those monies would be available for legislative appropriation to pay them reducing programs statewide. It keeps in place the right to appeal the three-judge panel's ruling. As you're aware, the governor has appealed that ruling to the United States Supreme Court. They're still planning on doing that until the United States Supreme Court or another as to whether they're going to hear it, and if so, what the result is.
Okay.
And it does not change sentencing statute. It does not change the Sentencing Commission. That's the legislative, really intertwines and backs up a lot of the nuts and bolts of the governor's plan. As a result, law enforcement, the District Attorneys Association, and Victims' Rights backed up the legislative plan too, because although it is a compromise and in some areas it wasn't exactly what the governor's plan was, everybody, public safety, and this plan does not result in the early release of any of the 7,700 inmates. So where are we? Once we get down to 100, we still have realignment.
Okay.
And we're still going to have the situation that's been created by realignment statewide and locally. We are also going to have a situation where the state is going to have to monitor the flow of inmates and the population of inmates to comply with that level. If they increase, to put them.
Okay, when you say the state, and then I'll probably try to backtrack a little bit too, when the state has to monitor, do you mean the state at the state level, or do you mean the state at the county level, or?
The California Corrections and Rehabilitation.
Okay.
They have to keep the population stable.
Would I be right in saying that's at the state level?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be, so if violent crime goes up, who commit that violent crime are ineligible to serve their sentence out in a county jail and a county prison. They will have to serve it out in state prison. Is the state population in the state prisons beyond the limit, they're going to have to find a place to put them, to house them. That would mean out-of-state facility prisons. That would mean expanding fire camps, things like that. Otherwise, they are going to be out of compliance with the three-judge panel's ruling.
Okay, it's Steinberg's idea would have been to say, look, if we do this counseling, we give counseling to help reduce recidivism rates, and we spend money there, plan, then the judges would look at that and say, well, you're trying a new thing there, maybe we'll give you some more time.
Yeah.
Steinberg's
plan was a non-starter politically to begin with, because it contemplated the release of inmates, it contemplated that money's recidivism-related projects, it contemplated a sentencing commission be formed. Law enforcement was an extreme minority as a participant in that, and it contemplated the whole-scale revision of the sentencing statutes. So less people would be going in, even then are currently going into state prison facility 109, and law enforcement, probation officers, victims' rights groups, the people who are impacted most intimately by an increase in crime and by criminal activity, would almost be frozen out to make the laws that guide their activities. So in my view, Steinberg's plan was DOA. this plan does give money to go towards recidivism statutes. 75, well, any portion that's not used to lease these out-of-state beds or private prison beds will go to them. So it does preserve the ability and the possibility of money to be going statewide to recidivism-oriented programs that would be administered, I presume, on the local level.
Is that spent at the end of a prisoner's time, or is it spent?
It's spent on both. It's spent after they've done their time in state to keep them from going back to state, or to keep them from committing new crimes. It's done and before they commit these crimes to help them get job skills and what have you.
After they come out of the crime, is that on the probation time period? That would when they would.
Most of this money would probably be allocated to probation departments.
Okay. Now, is there? You know, we bring up, or I hear a lot of like, a lot of this might be drug-related crime. Is that what maybe we're talking about? So maybe if they can.
There's not a whole lot of people that are spending their time solely for drug possession charges.
Okay, so when we hear that,
that's I know that a colleague of mine in San Francisco stated that. It's just not accurate. Okay. And the state rebutted that right out of the get-go. The secretary for CDCR came out and rebutted that statistic and just said it's dead wrong. Okay. And it is dead wrong. You know, if all you got is drug possession and you don't have any strikes in your background, you're not going to prison anymore. You're going to county jail or a county prison. So between Proposition 36 with the drug treatment and the drug courts and AB 109, that's just not happening. And that statistic is like a lot of statistics floating out there, just not accurate.
Okay, so what would that money maybe be addressing? Do we have any specific ideas of what that money is going to be going to?
No, okay. At this point, no. The plan is still to be fleshed out what they mean by that. But in the meantime, we're still left with realignment, and there are several impacts on that you know, life since we're starting year 2, and there are several realities of realignment that have occurred. First of all, the FBI uniform crime reports for the first 6 months that realignment was in effect show that in California cities, there's been an increase in many of those cities in violent crime and in property crime. The jury's out as to whether or not realignment is the main cause of that, or if there are other factors. But just to note, the first factors that came out shows that there's been an increase in California's most populated cities in those areas, and it's been rather dramatic in some of these communities. We also know many jails in counties like Fresno, Orange County, Alameda, LA, they're making Hobbesian decisions where they're releasing violent criminals and sex offenders who have actually in some cases been sentenced before they complete their sentences due to overcrowding. So they're taking a look at the most high-risk population and they're saying, yeah, you committed these crimes, but you're a greater risk than you're less of a risk than somebody else, so we're going to release you because we have to, because we don't have any more room at the end. That's happening in some of the counties where it's come to critical mass. Other counties that have these issues are contracting with counties that have space. Amador County, in some cases where you've already been sentenced and you're serving out your sentence, to free up bed space and reduce the overcrowding situation that we might otherwise ordinarily have, are contracting with El Dorado County. Some positive things.
Before we get to some of the positive things, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll see where the silver lining is, or what a positive thing is in this. So stay with us right here on TSPN.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.